Israel has replaced God.
For my family, they actually were stateless because they came from a border region of Carpathian Ruthenia. So at the end of the war, it had been Czechoslovakia from 1920. Then in 1938, it was annexed by Hungary when Hitler invaded, took over Czechoslovakia. But then in 1945, it was annexed by the Soviet Union and became Ukraine. So they actually didn't have anywhere to go back to. And, of course, no one would take Jewish refugees. And that was the whole point, of course, of Zionism, was it was actually from the British, and the whole British mandate from 1922 was about creating a Jewish state, but it was about getting rid of Jews from Europe. And so my family didn't have anywhere else to go.
So the creation of a state for the Jewish people was to solve a problem back in Europe, which is a problem based on hate, on anti-Semitism. They wanted to get rid of the Jews over there and ship them somewhere else.
Yeah, well, that's been happening. That was happening from the 1800s, the persecution of the Jews. And so really by the time the Balfour Agreement came, it was really, let's find a solution to get the Jewish population out of Europe and somewhere else.
And, of course, they weren't even at the time thinking of Palestine.
No, there were 5 different...
Argentina, Paraguay, the Northern Territory of Australia. Where were the others?
There was Africa.
Ghana.
Ghana.
Yeah.
Okay. So it didn't actually initially have any relationship to Palestine.
Except for the Zionists who
wanted
from back in the 1800s were already saying we need a national state. And as far as they're concerned, the biblical place for them is Israel.
But the Zionists were secular.
But I think in some ways the secular Zionists have become worse because for a lot of them, Israel has replaced God as the identifier for Judaism. It's no longer about the very proud secular Jewish history of the Bolsheviks or the Bundists or there's some amazing Jewish historical figures. Judaism for them all became wrapped around Zionism in a way that was worse because it wasn't about religious identity. It was just about Israel.
Originally, Jews didn't support Zionism largely. They said, we want to stay in Europe. Religious Jews said we can only go back to the Holy Land if we're led by the Messiah. And so it wasn't widely supported. I mean, it was more a European thing than a Jewish thing.
They say occupation, trying to hide that it's a genocide.